John Gilroy here. My world is filled with software development lifecycle. Today, let's turn the tables and talk about contract lifecycle management. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, a podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. In the virtual studio today, we have Ryan Donley, Vice President of a company called Icertis, Icertis. Ryan, how are you?
I'm great, John. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I heard good things about your company, and I thought kind of a niche product. Maybe we could expand on it, but a very, very important product, especially given the rapidly changing environment we're living in.
Absolutely.
It's a tough world. It's like, whoa, man, I can't keep up with all the changes taking place. Perhaps for our audience, you can give us maybe a little thumbnail sketch of what your company does, and then we'll just jump into some questions.
Sure. Happy to do that. So yeah, again, great to be here. Icertis is about a 16-year-old company. Was founded on the basis of helping companies manage their overall contracts from a digital platform experience more efficiently and more productively, if you will. Fast forward about two and a half years ago, the company made the strategic investment to get into public sector. And so we are focused now on helping our companies and federal agencies go through that transformation around how do they make their back-end procurement and contract processes more efficient, more scalable. And you're right, we're going to talk about some of the market conditions that I think are really interesting with this. And it's a real interesting company. I mean, if you think about business today, at the heart of all business transactions is a contract, and that's where we play. And so we're excited to be here and talk a little about what we're doing in public sector and why we're in public sector and inform the audience about what's going on.
In a perfect world, and Ryan, we both live in a perfect world, you have, maybe even RFI, then you maybe have a pre-award, maybe an award, maybe some compliance, maybe closeout, and then do another project. And that never happened. So that's a perfect world. But now we're in a world where, okay, we have this contract, then we have major disruption, and then maybe continue. It's taken this, I'm in the classroom a lot. I love a whiteboard and I go A, B, C, D. Well, now we have the whiteboard falling off the wall or something. And so people are in a situation where it's getting tough just to manage the contracts, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And there's so much change coming at contracting officers and purchasing individuals and people who are creating the solicitations. So no, it's and the pace and the speed and the change in requirements and just the entire ecosystem of contract management is evolving at a rapid pace. And again, in our public sector space, we see that, as an opportunity for us here, especially with all the changes we're seeing in the federal government. And what you're talking about, John, really kind of feeds into that, right? The interest in becoming more digitally nimble and digitally modern, and where that's going to take us. We aren't the policymakers, but we certainly are the underlying platform that can help enable that more fluid transaction of the contracting process from authoring to contract closeout and everything in the middle. So yeah, it's a whirlwind of a time, that's for sure.
So Ryan, you start off with the contrast of your company's got a decade or more experience in the commercial world, and now you're applying some of these lessons learned to the federal world, and you've got a great background for that. So tell me about some of the challenges with contract management you see in the federal world today.
Yeah, well, in general, our marketplace doesn't do digital transformation as frequently as you will see in other commercial segments. And we're seeing that transition or that transformation happen right now. I mean, if you think back, it takes about 5 to 10 years in the industry when you see certain use cases around, if you will, the broad term digital transformation. We've seen it around engineering. We've seen it around core ERP, decade and a half ago. And now everybody's laying into the purchasing, procurement, contracting processes, which is exactly where we fit in. So a number of our customers are doing this for the very first time. They're coming off of legacy systems that perhaps they have homegrown built over 10, 20, 30 plus years in their organizations. And so it's a major disruption, to the industry. But as they say, when one goes, they all tend to follow. So we're seeing a big bow wave of interest and movement to retire that technical debt, to modernize systems, and to think of a more forward-leaning way to be more efficient and capable and predictable and productive when it comes to the whole contracting experience within an organization.
Years ago, you'd page through physical magazines. All my kids even know what those are. And you always have like a before and after picture. Here's before, then they take the Ryan Donley pills and after, and they lose 30 pounds or something. So I love before and after stories. Let's talk about how they generally do it now. Lots of different ways, lots of different agencies. I would imagine there's some agencies that may be using Excel spreadsheets and
absolutely,
I don't know what, whiteboards, Excel spreadsheets, Post-it notes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Email, Excel spreadsheets, traditional methods that we've all used, I'd say, over the last 15 to 20 years, right? Yeah, and that's completely changing now. I mean, we're looking at and are embedding AI, our AI engine as a part of our overall platform. We're pulling in different third-party information like FARs and DFAR information. We're running analytics on those to help our customers negotiate better, to organize their responses better to customers, to make sure that they're moving more rapidly through their own contracting and procurement systems. It's helping to alter and streamline workflows internally, for our customers. It is a vastly different world than what it has traditionally been over the last many decades, to your point.
So let's say Ryan works for me, and I kind of poke my head in his office, because people back in the office now, and I go, hey, Ryan, give me a little report on compliance on that project. Then you got to scurry around your office, get that outdated spreadsheet. Which Excel spreadsheet? Is it the pink Post-it notes or the green Post-it notes? And so I'm just thinking of just one tiny, just reporting. I mean, if human hours can be saved in reporting, that means all kinds of savings, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And you've touched on one of the key factors that we talk to customers about all the time is how do we remove the process of analyzing the contract, not just during the contracting phase, but during the execution of the contract, and leverage the AI using things like natural language processing and all those kinds of things to look for key characteristics, or we call them attributes, within a contract, where you can summarize those quickly, you can gain insights on what those mean, and you can take action, right? And you can do that at the click of a button or a very quick search. And you can do that across thousands of different contracts, across different contract types, whether that's an NDA, whether that's an award, et cetera, and so forth. So yeah, it is a very different world than, to your point, having to go back and look through the sticky note pile, which I remember well, would just be on desks to remind you of things. And it certainly takes away countless man hours to go do that research. If somebody is not in the office, that task can be assigned to somebody else. They can have the power to go search and do the same. So yeah, the power of the AI and the engine behind the platform is a huge cost driver in terms of efficiency and accuracy, right? That's the other thing too. Humans make mistakes, right? But machines are much better once we get them trained and they understand what to look for, about being accurate and just giving you that richness and depth of the information that you're seeing and contextualizing that so that you can help make a better business decision for your organization.
And now we talk about dirty laundry. I know in the commercial world, there may be contracts that maybe aren't managed correctly. Maybe there's, some compliance issues or something. And that may not be a big deal for, I don't know, Joe's Donut Shop in Ohio or something. But the federal government, if they're not compliant, so what happens when maybe an audit or maybe your tool finds something that's out of compliance? I mean, this is a red flag, isn't it?
It can be. Traditionally, CLM systems aren't really in the auditable patch for federal agencies, for auditing bodies within the federal government like DCAA and DCMA to look at. But your point is still valid. We want to make the contracting process accurate. We want to make it transparent. We want to make sure that our customers have the ability to do the appropriate analysis. So perhaps within the execution of a contract or how they're pricing a contract, et cetera, that they're adhering to what the contract stipulates, right? And so we can help our customers run those KPIs, run those metrics, help them track the performance of contract execution, all those things, which certainly are beneficial to the operation of the business or a potential audit downstream.
Yeah. Icertis is your company. a lot of commercial experience. Now, I would imagine that there are agencies that you deal with that have, I don't know how to phrase this carefully, have more challenges with security than other agencies. And so have you run into any brick walls as far as applying Icertis to different types of agents? I'm beating around the bush here. Different types of agencies in the federal government?
No, we've stood up the business to be ready to consume those contracts. To get a little technical, we're actually building out an IL4 cloud at the moment. We're on Azure GCC High. Many of our government contracting customers have similar requirements to what agencies have. And that ecosystem, as you know, is an ever-evolving landscape of different requirements, different policies, different regulatory demands, which we keep up with. And we have a purpose-built cloud guided specifically towards public sector. It's all single tenant. We recognize the need for onshore resources. And so in that regard, we've really set the business up to be purposeful to address not only the needs and what we've talked about functionally, how CLM can, will, should work within those organizations, but to be able to house that data in a secure manner that meets all the regulatory requirements that our public sector customers demand.
You know, Shakespeare said, have to say it trippingly on the tongue. And you just said CLM. It's going to be a new acronym for some people, but Absolutely. It is contract. And I think that given the situation that's going on in Washington, D.C. today, an argument can be made that's a lot of contracts right now that are being disrupted and have to be managed differently than they were managed before. So this could be the golden opportunity for a company like yours to say, hey, we've been doing this in the civilian world for a long time. Let us take and show you how the best practices work. It's almost like building an ark before the flood hits. I mean, you have the skill set that's really important this year in Washington.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's one that I'm very bullish on. I think this could be a right place, right time type moment for these types of technologies. I say that from this perspective. Obviously, we know what DOGE is pushing. You're seeing federal executive orders come out around digital modernization. We aren't the policy holders. We're not going to create procurement policy, but we are the platform that can enable that policy. And we are the platform that can bring that to life. I've had a lot of conversations anecdotally with friends of friends or people across different agencies, told them a little bit about what we're doing. And there's this forming thought of, well, maybe ultimately there's this vision of this unified contract platform that supports federal agencies and the government contractors who support those federal agencies. I mean, how neat would that be if we could think broadly, bigger, and work towards a great vision of becoming that digital contracting platform thread, if you will, between the federal market and the agency and the government contractors who support that market. So it's a real interesting time. I think people are starting to think about that. Of course, that's a very big statement I just said. That's obviously a multi-year type vision and approach, but that's the direction that certainly CLM and other technologies are headed. And we're glad to be a part of it from our position.
Google Trends, you can go there and type in a phrase, Washington Nationals, and see interest over time. And I'm sure if you typed in the phrase transparency, you'd see in the last 5-10 years maybe a lot more interest. So let's talk about transparency and contract management. So you touched on it with other companies. And so does transparency to you mean other people in the agency can see what's going on? Or does transparency mean outsiders can come in? Or is transparency the word that you use, the big 4-letter word, AUDIT? I guess that 5-letter word. So
no, I mean, we always adhere to our customers' workflow processes and requirements, security requirements. Our platform is set up so only people that the internal administrator wants to give access to see certain parts of any particular contract are allowed to see those particular parts. Clearly, there are pieces of contract data that are more sensitive to others, and we certainly appreciate that. So that's part of our process of how we help our clients to build, come up with their business requirements, and then ultimately configure and deploy the Icertis platform within the customer's environment. So when I say transparency, probably a better way to say it is more efficiency, ability to move faster, ability to get that information quicker, ability to make those business decisions with more fidelity and more accuracy, and to do that in a more expeditious manner.
Well, when I was in college, I took an English class, and you read a novel, and the professor will be up there and talk about this big fancy French word. It's called denouement. Okay, at the end of the novel, this is all the characters get resolved and find out who the king actually is. What about contracts? There's a denouement. There's an end to contracts too, and so that's got to be part of a life cycle, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I think it's continued deeper integration with acquisition systems, right? For full life cycle automation. I think it's just expanding, the use of generative AI, right? AI is out of the box, right? And we are part of that process, to assist in drafting and negotiating and, further enhancing that overall experience and those business outcomes for our customers. I mean, I think ultimately CLM is going to be more of a strategic intelligence tool, right? Today, I think people view contracts as a necessary evil. They have to be in place for business transactions to occur. I think as we look towards the future, certainly with generative AI, as the platform continues to grow, as potentially markets potentially converge onto single platforms, et cetera, I think viewing the contract as more of a strategic tool versus a tactical tool is where we're going to head at some point down the road.
2 weeks ago, I interviewed a general from the Space Force, and I don't know the exact word that he used, but it sure sounded like strategic intelligence. And yeah. I'm looking at you and I'm thinking about contract management and go, oh, would you steal that from the Space Force or the DoD? But I think if you have very large systems, in order to make a change, you have to have an idea of what commitments you have and the denouement, when those commitments end and when other ones change.
Absolutely.
If you get mired down in the tactics, you're going to lose the battle. And so you have to have this. Now, right now in outer space, they're worried about what they call, space debris and situational awareness, because bad things are happening up there. And but they want to see the world view, the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. So this is the same thing as for federal leaders. They have to have a handle on where the contracts are leading them. And if they're mandated to do something, they have to know if they can or can't do it and when they can do it. And maybe it's more of when than anything else. And that may give the insight for that.
Yeah, I mean, measuring KPIs, your obligations, vendor performance, all those things that are critical to understanding what's going on in your contract, and being able to do that layered with the AI that we've talked about, getting off the Post-it notes, as you mentioned earlier, that certainly dates you back in those days. Absolutely critical. And it allows, I think too, it also allows people to go in their own worlds and think then more strategically, right? About how do they execute their mission, right? More effectively. If you're the DoD, then perhaps that frees up opportunities to think about how to better serve the warfighter, as an example. As we all know, that's their mission. So, yeah, I think there's some great strategic advantages that we're bringing to the market, and we're just getting started. So, looking forward to the future.
As we're recording this little conference taking place in San Francisco called RSA, and all my cyber folks are out there gripping and grinning, and
all the cyber folks,
and everything else. And the connection here is with AI. You mentioned AI before, and I'm I know a lot of these security folks and think about security. So when Icertis uses AI, what kind of security considerations do they have?
Oh, we take security very, very seriously. As I mentioned, we have our environment on a single tenant, GCC, high cloud with Microsoft. We are NIST compliant. We have passed our FedRAMP PMO audits the last 4 years running, in which obviously security is a very crucial piece of that. And we have that conversation, quite honestly, quite frequently with many of our customers, because that is a big concern. You touched on compliance a little bit ago, and you're right. Compliance is a major, major factor, but security is equally as important. And so at Icertis, across the board, in particular in public sector, we adhere to all of the various security requirements that are required by law in order to make our products safe and give our customers, the understanding that we have taken the time, the effort, and the investment to keep their data secure, so that they can feel confident in the platform.
No. So Ryan, earlier in this interview, you said that Icertis has just been involved in the last couple of years. It sounds like 10 years, I mean, NIST, I mean, IL4. I mean, these are bold steps. I mean, there are some companies that have been doing the business for 10, 15 and don't have what you had now. I mean, it's just, it's a great leap. There we go for more outer space stuff.
Yeah.
It's a big leap in 2 years. I mean, you're sitting back here you don't realize it, but I talk to a lot of other companies, and this is maybe our 5-year goal is blah, blah, blah. So you guys are jumping in head first.
Absolutely. I've only been with Icertis a little bit over a year, and that was a large part of the conversations when I was coming here. It was right on that point, like what kind of those decisions were made and how are we thinking strategically and how are we getting into this market? Because to your point, there are considerations here that commercial customers simply do not have, right? And the company's been very thoughtful and has really made those investments, because without those investments, without being able to attest to what we've just been discussing, we wouldn't be able to be successful in the market, not as a SaaS company. So yeah, I'm very happy and proud that the company's made those decisions and clearing some of those blocking and tackling obstacles out of the way for us to go be successful in the market.
Well, it's the trust issue. Who's this guy?
100%.
Just 2 years? I don't know anything about you. Oh, check. Go from there. Yeah, it's interesting.
Absolutely.
We mentioned Icertis. That's your website. And I think if you go to icertis.com/public sector, you can get more information about them. And I'll put that all in the show notes. So let's do some forward looking here. So accomplished a lot in 2 years, in 2 to 6 years for Icertis. What's the end game? There's a lot going on for you guys. What's happening for you the next 5 years for you guys?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, it's really to deepen the product, continue to lean into AI, to look at broader application across federal agencies. And by the way, I should note, our business today is entirely US centric, right? So as we look to grow globally and internationally, I just think the sky's the limit, right? We'll get there. If you think about the international implications when you're dealing with local federal agencies, they have similar requirements to what it takes, what we've discussed for us to stay in this business up in the US. Some of those the processes are similar and some are different. And so there's other investments that we'll make long term, but we're focused on really digging in deep and being successful and bringing our clients enormous value in this evolving landscape of contract lifecycle management here in the States. And then as we're successful there, we'll continue to scale the business globally. I
was just positioning your offering here. I'm thinking about 2025 and some of the things that are happening here as far as contracts go with the federal government. And the old saying is, we were a country before country was cool. It's like, yeah, we knew these problems were coming, and now we can help you provide the tools that can manage this madness. Because that's all. I would hate to be involved in situations where people are kind of pulling the rug out from under you, and you got to figure out what the implications on your other budgeting. Sure. It's a tough world to be in, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, the genie's out of the bottle, right?
Yeah.
So the pace of change is here. AI is here. It's an often overused word, but it gets the point across. Digital transformation is here, and this is a use case that we are looking to lead the way in and really make a significant impact in public sector.
Great. Well, Ryan, unfortunately, we are running out of time here. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Ryan Donley, Vice President at Icertis. Thanks, Ryan.
Great. Thanks, John. Appreciate the time.